Hello, everyone. My name is Bill Pugh. I'm with Smart Connections Consulting, and we are going to talk about San Mateo County and the connecting the under-resourced areas for e-learning. I'm with Benny Lee, who's the program director for San Mateo County's public Wi-Fi in the county of San Mateo, California. And Benny, if you could walk us through the San Mateo County's e-learning program and the details around that, because basically what we're looking at is you're gonna give us some background on describing the challenge, where we deployed the public Wi-Fi, and and the parts and how it connects for the people, and I'll support in terms of how we're making it happen and give some context in terms of what we're doing next.
Certainly. Let me first go ahead and describe San Mateo County. We have been in this program for the last 7 years, right? And we've expanded it to over 100 different sites. And we have 4 pillars that we're trying to achieve. The first pillar, of course, is we're putting a lot more services online to make it simpler for the public to be able to access government services. So we want to make sure that there's easy access to services. Second, right, it's good for educational opportunities because all learning is now online. You have to read your books online, you had to do your homework online, you have to turn your homework and assignments in online. So it's very good for education. Also, we see it as good for the local ecosystem. Good for local businesses because how many people have not gone to a coffee shop just to do the Wi-Fi, or their kids do that. That's why it's also important. And the last thing is, obviously, and it's the most important, is to connect those who have no connectivity or have limited connectivity, because there still is a digital divide, and it was much more pronounced as a result of COVID. We're finding that underserved families don't have connectivity, and there are areas that are very challenged that don't have connectivity. County of San Mateo is 455 square miles. 75% of the county is rural. And in that rural area, we have like 300 students. So you have a student for every single square mile. Imagine trying to bring out connectivity in that location. The carriers just won't do that. And it's very scant. So that because of the the COVID-19, the shelter in place, as well as the distance learning, we have to bridge that gap. The initiative that you're talking about in East Palo Alto, it started off as an innovation project for East Palo Alto, but it also came with certain challenges. Those challenges were that East Palo Alto doesn't have a lot of connectivity throughout the town, and it's a heavily wooded area in terms of trees within the communities, and these trees are very old and very tall. And those canopies prevent what we would call millimeter wave line of sight shots to build an urban network. So we had to find a new solution, and that solution was CBRS, because it's private LTE, where you own that. You have to license it through the FCC, but it's able to penetrate the trees and deliver the Wi-Fi signals. And because of COVID, we call these sites Park and Connect. Basically, you drive up, you ride up on your bike, you download your homework, you do your homework, and it's not just only for schools; it's for everybody who lacks connectivity and needs access to services. It's a great opportunity for many, and obviously we've expanded our efforts using CARES funding to work on a number of pilot districts.
Great. And I noticed here that there's a significant number of underserved communities or underserved areas that are not connected. What is the total number? Is this what we're seeing here as the 4,411?
Oh, well, let's start that with a context first, right? There's 23 school districts throughout the county of San Mateo, right, in the 455 square miles. And of those 23 school districts, there's 93,500 students. We went out to the school districts and asked for every single of the school district to identify students who had absolutely no connectivity. And every single school district came in, submitted their numbers. The more affluent districts actually didn't have as much of a challenge. If you live in Hillsborough, and the average cost of housing in Hillsborough costs like $3.5 million, you can imagine that they didn't have any connectivity issues. But you go to East Palo Alto, you go to North Fair Oaks, which is part of unincorporated Redwood City, you can see the challenge. In fact, the number you see here, the 23, is the representative of the school district. The 4,411 is the number of students that have reported they don't have any connectivity at home. And of those two districts that I just noted, the Redwood City unincorporated as well as East Palo Alto, that represents actually nearly half, actually about half of the population of students who have no connectivity. You go to East Palo Alto, that's a quarter of the population. What you see here is a map that shows the district having 3,269 students. We identified 571 students who had no connectivity. But one of the things that you know about most districts, you have inter-district cooperation, and there's no high school in East Palo Alto, so they go to Sequoia High School and they go to other elementary schools. And that 1,128 represents actually the 6 or 7 different school districts that reside in the geographic area of Ravenswood, which encompasses East Palo Alto as well as East Menlo Park. It shows that 1,128 students do not have connectivity. That spells out a challenge. And the grids that you see here were things that we did creatively to try to identify, shall I say, 500 feet circles and fit them all in circles to measure where we can build out Wi-Fi and also encompass multiple solutions.
Excellent. Well, I know that it's at top of mind for a number of the cities and across North America today, and I know that one of the actual things that with the cities that I've worked with, as well as with the county, the challenge is not only having devices that can connect, but it's the broadband connectivity that is needed for the e-learning programs, as well as just day-to-day activity because of the current conditions that we live in. So I think it's a real innovative approach, because we've heard a lot about 5G. We've heard a lot about private 5G, private LTE, and things of that nature. But it seems like the County of San Mateo actually took a proactive approach to delivering this.
Absolutely. We actually look at it from multiple channels. We also we're trying to increase adoption. So there are certain programs like Internet Essentials with Comcast. It's a $9.95 program where, if you're in the underserved population, your family actually has to receive free and reduced lunch price meals for your student. You qualify for the program. There are some other challenges and hurdles. We can get into that at a separate discussion. But gaining more adoption through those $10 programs in Comcast. AT&T has Internet Access, or AT&T Access. It's also $10 a month. These are programs that a lot of families may not be aware of, and we're trying to increase the adoptions. We're funding a full year's worth of services through our through that CARES Act funding, and we're also procuring 325 Wi-Fi hotspots that are specific to this community. And when you see this map with all these hexagon grids, you'll notice that there's some squares, blue squares and purple squares. The purple squares actually are magenta. They represent T-Mobile. The square represents a 4G tower, and the blue squares represent a AT&T LTE tower. Now, if it's a circle, it means that it's lesser grade, meaning that it's 3G. 3G is still usable, but it's probably not one of the best experiences for students. And the challenge that you have is, if a school district provides hundreds of Wi-Fi hotspots, the portable hotspots, you have to also measure the capacity of those cell towers, because the moment you put 100 students around one cell tower, and the bandwidth is very limited to, shall I say, roughly about 200 megabits, you're gonna run into problems because 100 students are gonna try to divide that up, processing, you're gonna get less than a megabit per second, and that won't work for a Zoom conference. So you have to apply a multi-fold strategy approach to make this work. And you have to also deal with terrain challenges, hills, as well as line of sight and trees that get in the way.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I think was really exciting about what we did here. When we were looking, and you and I kind of walked the areas of the parks to kind of get some of the information that we needed to start to put up the links and everything, first and foremost, not only is it important that it serves the unconnected, the under-resourced areas, but over time, it's a network that can actually be used, for the public. And likewise, the county and the city can actually deploy additional services across that those CBRS links, for some of the smart city initiatives and things of that nature. Can you talk a bit about, what this means to East Palo Alto in terms of where we're seeing these deployments?
Oh, certainly. So East Palo Alto, we started this 2 years ago in discussions with, actually a little more than 2 years ago, with joint venture Silicon Valley and also yourself. And we wanted to look at new technologies because of the challenges that we had with the foliage. We could not do millimeter wave shots to these parks because of, you could see the trees that are lining Martin Luther King Jr. Park. So that became a challenge. And also Bell Street Park, you see a whole lot of trees. So we had to find a solution. And, there's not a one stop shop of solutions. You have to incorporate multiple solutions. CBRS is basically that private LTE technology. What's great about it is it hands off very well. Wi-Fi tends not to hand off from wireless access point to wireless access point, whereas CBRS, it is an LTE signal. And basically, it's a cellular signal working on band 14. Of course, there are limitations. I think you got 200 megabits to play with, just like you would have with any kind of LTE type towers. But it provides that solution that you can connect to all these different facilities with just near line of sight, where you can penetrate trees, you can penetrate some buildings. There's going to be some moderate loss, but you still can get that service out there. And 200 megabits is quite an amount to work with. And if you're doing Zoom calls, all you really need is between 5 to 6 megabits for HD quality.
Yes, and the other part that's really interesting is we're leveraging a lot of the county's current assets to extend the connectivity. So the actual backhaul here is the Comcast fiber connected to the CBRS links, then the offshoots of the Wi-Fi APs. So I think it's not only sharp in terms of the technology that's being used and the interoperability of the technologies, but it's leveraging the existing assets that the county had. So I think that was really interesting and an innovative move to actually do that.
Absolutely. So think of it this way: when you have a gigabit speed up and down, right? Most of the times, I would say that you're probably not use about 80 to 90% of it. And using it for Wi-Fi is a great way to make sure that the services could get back to the people. And those who need it, definitely use it. And we see the increased usage in hard to reach rural areas. We have a memorial park, which it's totally wooded in the area. In fact, you don't get any cell signals. So I don't recommend people drive out there with their GPS unless you have a GPS in your car. But we saw literally nearly 100% growth in terms of devices during the shelter in place. While other places, particularly in urban areas, you see roughly about a 20 to 30% drop in usage. The device counts are still up there. The sessions are shorter, part because folks are really adhering to very safe practices. And the county has been very good at that. I think we all have to play our part in terms of protecting each other.
Absolutely. So when we look at the path to how do we actually make this happen? How do we actually deliver that? And what the county had to do in terms of collaboration and the partner organizations that were involved and everything like that. There was quite a bit of work to coordinate. You had your system integrators. You had smart connections in there. You had joint venture. I mean, you had a number of groups in there that all had a stake in this with respect to ensuring that we delivered the end results to the underserved communities. And one of the things that I looked at, and I know we had several conversations around, was, you know, getting the connectivity and delivering the connectivity and those services was one aspect of it. But now you have some level of accountability to deliver, you know, quality of service, you know, in and around that. You know, so we had the network in place, and there's multiple, you know, dashboards that are there. There's a lot of data that's in flight. There's a lot of data that's collected. And the next steps that we're actually taking is to collect all of that data and deliver to the county and East Palo Alto effectively a single pane of glass or a digital twin of the connected assets. And in and around that, where we see the advantage is that this technology of digital twin actually looks at the performance of the network. So we're literally taking advantage of the data in flight and determining, you know, whether or not the wireless APs are overloaded. Can we perform some load balancing? Can we see real time what's happening within the construct of the network? And then how do we bring that to a level of visualization that allows the county and the city to act on it in such a way that, you know, you maintain that service delivery and the requirements around that. And do you see the real? Can you talk a bit about the real value that's there?
Well, absolutely. So as I noted, we have over 100 sites. We have county facilities and non-county facilities where we have to strike public-private partnerships and agreements in terms of using the facilities. One of our earliest sites is Pescadero. It's a town that's 20 miles removed from the closest city, right? And it's a population of 600, but it's a perfect example because for the longest time, we had 150 megabit connection, 150 down and 20 up through Comcast. It cost us $99,000 just to bring that line out there because it's really in the boonies, as I would call it, right? But it's also one of the heaviest used areas because it's probably the only Wi-Fi that was available around that area. And we've since built more Wi-Fi units out there, locations. But to give you an understanding of the usage, we have on a monthly basis, during the summer months, it grows intensely. It goes from 3,000 to 4,000 devices. And during the non-summer months, it averages between 2,500 to 3,500 devices. Now, this is for a population of 600. What does that mean? It means that there's a lot of folks who are coming into town to use the services. There's 8 businesses that benefit from this. And if you understand the math with, you know, people connecting your Wi-Fi is usually 1 in 20. So you do the math, that's nearly 60, 70,000 people who are coming to town in a monthly basis just to use the services, which helps the local economy. The other thing is that it was an area where a lot of migrant workers live, and their kids are going to college, but they never came back because they couldn't do their homework. Now there's a reason for them to come back to spend time with their family. And the great thing is because it's in public locations, it's in outdoor locations, they can go out, still do their homework, right? And the whole family can enjoy the open space that's the beauty of that area. We were challenged, obviously, because of COVID, right? And also because of global, climate change, right? The CZU fires were very close to it. It caused a lot of evacuations. And it also highlighted the need and the use of the public Wi-Fi. We're looking into also expanding into those disaster areas where, where everybody's could be huddling together because they have to stay safe. But the most important aspect of any evacuation center is that you have to be able to let people communicate. And when I spelled out that Pescadero was heavily used, 12% of our download and upload traffic goes through just Pescadero of the 40 non-county facilities. If you were to add it up together, and that spells out a lot of usage and the value it provides to the township and the people and those who visit the town. Now, when you're talking about operations, I think that's very important because, it takes, about an hour to drive out there because you have to go through windy roads. So it's important for us to know when it's down because everybody will be screaming.
Absolutely. Well, again, I think it's an awesome job that the county is doing, a great service that the county is delivering to its citizens. And I mean, I know Smart Connections and myself, I mean, we're extremely appreciative of the opportunity just to work with the county, yourself, and deliver this type of service to the citizens. And in closing, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that this is just one step in solving the connectivity challenges. There's a lot of work left to do, and technology will help make things easier. But it's really a testament to a smart service that's being delivered by the county. And again, there's no silver bullet. It's delivered. It's going to deliver on all of the promises, and I just encourage everyone to stay tuned to what's going on out here. And if you have any questions, I know I'm available for anything, and Benny, I know you are likewise.
Yes, and I thank you for the conclusion on that, because I think you're absolutely right. Let's put it this way: in order for us to move into the 21st century, we have to connect our people, right? And that's why I love the work that I do. I lose a lot of sleep over it, but for a good reason, right? When you connect people, you suddenly empower them because you give them access to literally virtually everything on the internet. And I also want to credit some of the leaderships, right? Our board of supervisors who saw the wisdom in this. I want to credit some of the municipalities. They saw some wisdom in terms of making their online library services much more accessible, and services that you would normally pay for, like $25 a month to $300 a year, such as lynda.com. You can go to some libraries and get a library card and have free access to 10,000 training programs. You're right, there's no silver bullet, but empowering people to be able to get information, to self-learn, and to build new skill sets. That's what the internet has the ability to do. That's what public Wi-Fi will do for folks. And the obvious challenge is going through these steps, learning from some of the mistakes. The mistakes are not bad. They will teach you in the long run how to better the services. And, Bill, you and I work together on this. We know that we have run into some hurdles, right? But then through those hurdles, we know that, hey, when we work with vendors, we want to make sure that when they provide services, it needs to be turnkey. Turnkey meaning that there's an ownership on every single aspect of the wireless aspect, including some FCC registration and monitoring. So this tool that you're working on, and I've seen the work they've done in the city of Palo Alto with their digital twins, this is going to make our jobs a lot easier, right? Because we're operationalizing, making it very intelligent in terms of the information.
Absolutely. Well, we want to thank everyone, and we'll be around for questions.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.